Hello everyone, welcome to Fishin, the podcast where we discuss Magic's most competitive tribe and help the whole community become better Merfolk players. I'm Cody, one of the co-hosts of the show, and not Cody Smith on Twitter. And we also have, returning from the set of Aquaman 2, Matthew Cottle. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's actually a really important character that I'm playing, so I'm super psyched.
Are you Jason Momoa's Aqualad?
Shh. No spoilers.
Oh man, I can't wait to see that movie now.
No, I was actually the stand-in for Aqualad. I'm just Dolphin number 3.
Well, maybe you were like the stunt lad. Yes.
You know what? I'm cool with Dolphin number 3.
Yeah, at least with Dolphin number 3, like people, like you could point to your sons and your grandsons and be like, "See that? That was your pop."
Yeah, I mean, at least I'm not Dolphin number 2. Good God.
Yeah, God, what a terrible end. Just like, why would you swim into the submarine like that? That's terrible. It's terrible.
And we have now run the entire plot of Aquaman 2 for the people.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Snape kills Dumbledore. And where can we find you on Twitter, Matt?
On the twit, I'm Matthew Caudillate.
Yeah, make sure to tag us and talk to us about Merfolk. On all fronts. It can be about modern legacy lore, which is kind of foreshadowing what we're talking about, because we have a special guest this week. We have Coach from the Card Bazaar YouTube channel. How are you doing, man?
What's up? I'm still here,
Coach.
still alive.
Yeah.
So it's a good day.
Yeah. So where can we find you on the internets?
On the internets, well, you can find me on YouTube at the Card Bazaar, and you could also find me on Twitter at the Card Bazaar CC. So it'll be under I think it's Coach at the Card Bazaar CC. So that's where you can find me.
Okay, sweet. So we're
And Coach
bringing.
and I are both Texans, so that's kind of awesome.
What's up?
I said we're both Texans, so that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's badass. I like it.
I'm a Texan by proxy, but
Shut up, Oklahoman.
I didn't move here by my choice. It wasn't my choice.
What does Hank Hill feel about Oklahomans?
You stay here.
Hank, don't. Alabaster's a little guy, but he'll mess you up.
No offense, but he's from Oklahoma. Peggy, give me the hat.
Enough said.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If you're not aware of King of the Hill, it's an amazing show by Greg Daniels, who went on to make the U.S. Office, and the creator of Beavis and Butthead, and so many other great movies. His name is escaping me right now.
Mike Judge.
And basically, Oklahoma is treated like the redheaded stepchild of Texas, which it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all, but it is. But yeah, so we are here to talk about lore, and we brought you on to not only talk a little bit of Merfolk lore, but to talk about your audiobook, which is the Thran.
Yeah. So basically, it's an unofficial works per se, because it's not like Wizards endorsed. However, I was trying to get Wizards to like get permission, and they basically agreed to it under the fan content policy. So that's how I was able to do this. So, but I did basically the Thran book, did all the voicing, did all the narration, editing, all that fun stuff. So it was a doozy. So it was a nice little project, but I think it's been well worth it so far.
Few glasses of water to rest the voice afterwards.
A couple bottles, yeah.
A couple bottles. I mean, because you knocked that one an evening, right?
No. Oh my, no.
2 evenings?
No.
So when do we get the Masterworks Classics version? It's a video version of you sitting next to a roaring fire in a red robe, with just like a goblet of a choice brandy.
Oh, so much internet monies would be going your way.
I would mess up so much. No one would bear to listen through it all the way through, because I would not be able to read it straight through like perfectly. I am like, if you listen to it, it sounds great. Like it sounds like one good take, but that was like multiple takes within multiple takes. Like I can't read like paragraphs like straight through. Like I have to like read it beforehand and like prep it just to have some prior knowledge. And the stupid thing that I did with the audiobook was, I just read it cold. No biggie. Yeah, that was a dumb idea. wasted lots of hours doing that. So anytime you do an audiobook, please actually at least read the chapter a couple times before you actually do it, because yeah, that didn't work out so well. I mean, there's a lot of frustration, but overall, like I learned from my mistakes, and so now it's just like, okay, I think I could do this now. So maybe the Brothers War would be a summertime project. So now, our watch time hit, my watch time hit like 700,000. So it's like, damn, now I have to do the Brothers War. So it's probably gonna be a summer project. Probably gonna release it during football season, where there's like not a lot, where there's a lot of stress and I can't do the YouTube as much. So that might be a thing. But yeah, like yeah, the goblet thing, I don't think that can be pulled off. It's just no, because
So
I
I
can't
have
read,
to ask you a
because I
question.
can't read well enough. Like, I already had problems as a child growing up, like trying to learn how to read, and you want me to do it in front of a fire and cameras and microphones and a red robe and stuff in the mystery cup. Like, what are we doing?
So when doing my very, very small segment of lore that I've done, like I'll read the names and I'll butcher them incredibly badly. So you reading the book cold, how bad were the names butchered on the first take? Because they are
Awful.
really odd.
Awful. God awful. Like, I know I had to catch myself a couple of times, when one of the main female leads, her name's Rebecca, and almost every single time I want to call her Rebecca, and it's not.
Because that makes sense.
That's like the first. That's the first thing that pops up. And then like a couple of the city names and the country names, and it's like you really have to like look at it as like, what are they trying to say? How does this work? Like,
You need to
just,
like create a Magic the Gathering like phonetic spelling book for all the weird names.
oh my god, I would have a brain aneurysm like trying to do that, because it's like there's no.
I know that there used to be a
that-
pronunciation guide for the coverage teams. At some point, I know that from listening to the Limited Resources podcast, because Marshall Sutcliffe does the coverage, or does a lot of the coverage. He said that there is an official pronunciation guide for a lot of that stuff. But before we get really deep into this, remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe everywhere you can find this podcast. Basically, everywhere you can find a podcast. I literally have, I think, 12 podcast apps on my phone, and I just check them to make sure that everything, like, that it's going to all the places correctly. But you can basically find it everywhere. And you can also find us everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as at FishcastMTG. You can find us on Inked Gaming, where you can get some great art from Ishton, as well as now in Cardamajigs, where we have super awesome tokens. And Matt, we've had so many people sending us in pictures of these tokens, like after they get them, and even from the giveaway that you ran. Like, it is so cool to see everyone so excited about these tokens.
Yeah. Super awesome. I thank you guys all for participating in the giveaway. Let me see if I can speak tonight. Our winners were at More Orion, at My Zertheum, and shoot, I just clicked on a button. At Cleo Mist Koss. So congratulations, guys. I hope you guys really enjoy the tokens. I tried to spark a little conversation with you because I was trying to figure out which token set you would want the most. Hopefully I got you guys what you needed. And just because he's a friend of the show, I sent Mr. Kai Guy set of tokens as well. So Mr. Kai Guy, hope you enjoy. I will be giving out more tokens later. We'll see. So just keep, or if you know what, you can just bug me. Maybe I'll be super nice. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we actually have Ishton working on another secret token project that's going to be super cool.
This is so secret, I don't even know about it.
I am so I haven't told you about it because normally we do that sort of pre-game talking before, but we had an interesting story time prior to this.
And I've been on the set of Aquaman.
And yeah, and you had so much to tell us about Joseph Momoa's wonderful beard. Like that's a story in of itself. Remember, you can also support us.
And Jason Momoa is the stunt double to Jason Momoa, by the way.
Yeah, Jason Momoa. That's why they look so similar. Remember that you can support us for free by sharing the stuff that you like, and liking it and subscribing on YouTube. That's all great ways to support us. It doesn't cost you a space buck. But if you really like us, you can become a patron supporter over at patreon.com/fishcastmtg, like our new patron. I'm going to butcher this, so please be nice.
That's the theme of tonight, is we're just going to butcher names constantly.
Hidvolk Legu? I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you. Thank you so much for becoming a patron and joining our Discord and having conversations with us. It really means a lot to us that you support us. We're going to jump straight into the random Merfolk, and I reached out to Hidvolk, and we didn't get an answer just yet. So for the random Merfolk, I had Coach pick this one, and this one was actually like oddly on the nose for where we are in Magic right now.
In all fairness, they are always random. The last couple have actually seemed very serendipitous, I will say that.
And Matt, what is random Merfolk number 9?
Random Merfolk number 9 is actually strangely on the nose, and these are actually 100% random. But it is Augur Bolas, which might be in the new set with cool new art.
It is. It is in fact in the new set.
Spoilers.
Yes, it is. There is no feature save the one my master wills. I'm reading it right now on Scryfall, by the way.
Go ahead, you can take it, Coach.
Nice. All right. So, am I reading the brand new flavor text, or are we talking about this?
Read the whole card.
Let's see. When Augur Bolas enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And it's a 1/3 for 2, 1 generic mana and 1 blue. And the flavor text is there is no feature, save the one my master wills. And it's an uncommon. Looks fantastic.
Yeah, no, this card is super sweet. It's going to be played in the new standard that's coming up. It is an eternal card that is played in Pauper. And then, the new art is just super awesome. So, good pick.
What's funny about this card in Pauper, and I do play a little bit of Pauper. I don't play as much Pauper as I used to, but Augur Bolas is a card that, except for the recent, because Pauper's had a lot of cards that are like super, bend over the format busted. So we, like Peregrine Drake, and cards of the like. And so every time one of those cards dips down in popularity, there's always this undercurrent of maybe Augur Bolas is too powerful because it has 3 toughness. It draws you an instant or sorcery, which is usually a removal spell, and Pauper has great removal spells. So it's one of those things that Augur Bolas is super good, and it's kind of underrated, and I think it's going to do great things in Standard.
Standard's going to be crazy, with all these planeswalkers. It's going to be cool.
So I haven't bought a single pack of the newest set. I can't remember what it's called. Set after first Ravnica 3, whatever, Electric Boogaloo. But I am super stoked about this set. I think the uncommon planeswalkers all look fantastic. I think they're actually the best cards in the set compared to the rares and the uncommons, or rares and the mythics. But can we just say a little RIP for Domri, who just got annihilated today?
Yeah, in the official previews, not spoilers, in official previews, there was a card.
Domri is the first one to go down.
Yeah.
Dang. No bueno.
Yeah. Well,
I think there's 2 people in the world that like Domri, so.
So I know that this card was likely brought into the set because it's Augur Bolas, it's a Bolas card. So from a flavor point, I think this is a win for the set. But they also do just need a few random Merfolk and Ravnica, just because that's a thing that I think they're kind of begrudgingly oh yeah, we did reveal that there's a giant underground sea in Ravnica. Ugh. And then they're like, now we have to put in 2 Merfolk in this set. But
essentially.
Do you guys have any last comments on Augur Bolas before we move on to discussing the Thran?
I like Augur Bolas.
Oh yeah, I like it. I think it's going to do great things.
It was a pretty useful card in Pauper, and I was very entertained by it because it's a big defending creature where you could, instant sorceries, especially with blue, is very, very helpful, especially getting those counter spelly kind of stuff very fast. So yeah, I like Augur Bolas.
Yeah, and in Pauper you can get like brainstorm.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, if you can augur bolus and then next turn like brainstorm and then edict your opponent and kill their one creature, like what is magic at that point? All right, so we are going to get back. We did touch on it a little bit. Your kind of experiences working on the book. So like, where did you get this?
Can you just
idea?
read the whole book to us right now?
Yeah, just read the book. Story time.
Oh,
with
that's
Coach.
good. Oh, that's only gonna take like, I don't know, like 30 hours.
I
It's
got
not gonna
time.
take long at all.
I got time.
Dude, I have work.
I can work from home. I'm good.
Yeah. But so when like, what was it that made you that made you want to get into doing this? Like, was it something that you feel is missing from content creation, or like, was it just something that popped into your head one day and I want to do this?
Well, let me see how I can answer as best as possible. Basically, I was trying to look for stuff that nobody had done, just like with the timeline video, and kind of looking at the like MTG audiobook stuff. No one's really done like a complete audiobook on the internet, or there's really no audiobooks for Magic on like Audible or really anywhere. Like nobody's like really done something like this, or like people have tried to do the Brothers War and nobody's completed it. They would get like to like 5 chapters or get maybe like a fifth of the way there, and then would just stop. So there's not a complete audiobook. So that was like my goal. It's just like with the timeline video. Like nobody did the timeline video. Nobody did like a chronological order of the events that happened in the multiverse. So what did I do? Well, I decided last year to do it March. I think about 5 weeks to try to accomplish this. And at first it's like, man, this is totally not worth it. And then now it's like, that's the only reason I'm making money on YouTube now, is because of the timeline video. So same concept. Nobody's really completed something like this. Nobody's finished it, or nobody's even done it. So step up to the plate. We got the Thran now. Complete audiobook. Took about 3 months. So it was a lot longer than the timeline video by far. So, but it's basically, I was trying to search for something like you were saying, Cody, like something that was like missing, not there in content creation for Magic. Nobody's done an audiobook, like a complete one at least.
Yeah, and at least to me, like, when you think about like, and this is basically in any job. So like if you work at any company, it's and you're wanting to like advance yourself in that company or in YouTube content creation or basically anything you put your mind to, finding where like there's a weakness or finding where there just isn't something there and going, hey, I'll do it. Like, guess what? You're the only one there. You're the only one doing it. So you capture 100% of the market. Or even in your case where you were saying like somebody did it, but they did like 2 or 3 chapters and then that's it. Like, if people have tried and failed and then you try it and, knock it out of the park, then guess what? You're the guy who finished it. So yeah, I mean, that's a great strategy for YouTube and for life.
I will say one thing too. It fills a niche that just isn't out there. When I was a child, I read a lot of these books. I mean, I was really big into Magic, and my parents figured that one way to actually get me to read is to give me some of those books. So I mean, I read Whispering Woods and Shattered Chains and a few of the other earlier ones, but I think I downloaded Audible like a couple of years ago, and I actually looked for them to see if they were on there. And you're right, they weren't there, and so super stoked.
Well, thanks.
So now, Coach, how much experience do you have with the books? Like Matt, were you an early adopter of the Magic novels, or where did your interest in these books come from?
Well, here, like the first, like literally, like the first book I looked into was the Thran. Like I listened to the summaries of like some of the other stuff, like when Wedge did. That's how I got into Magic content creation in the first place, was listening to him. And so the first book that really I read was the Thran, because everything else was like Gamepedia, other YouTube content creators, Cybin. That's how I was basically getting my lore. And then, kind of looking back at Wedge's stuff with the Thran, his summarization, and I'm not trying to knock on Wedge or anything, but his summarization of the Thran doesn't really do the stories justice, if that makes any sense. Like, we got into a little conversation with like the comment section about I had a person who basically said, yeah, with Wedge and like like summaries and stuff, like he basically said it doesn't do it any good. It doesn't do it any justice of, they make Yawmoth this real evil guy, which he was. But at the time of the Thran, he wasn't necessarily this all evil, powerful person. He's more or less trying to advance the Thran civilization. He was trying to advance his own people. He was trying to make it better, have like a forced evolution to where they could be better than what they were. So you can make the argument that Yawmoth was trying to make his people better, whether they liked it or not, but it was for a good cause. It was not inherently evil per se. So, I mean, I think having the audiobooks with more details and more graphic information, it kind of gives it its justice that it deserves. And, people that listen to it have a better understanding than someone who's trying to have a quick summarization, like 10, 12, 15 minutes, where there is going to be stuff that's left out. I mean, you'll get the general gist of the story, but all the grimy details and why the people did this and like the emotions that are involved kind of plays it a lot better than just generalizing overall, if you want to get like a more in-depth story.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So I'm doing research right now for our second follow-up to our MTG, our Merfolk lore. And I did a lot of reading of some of the books as well. And again, I'm going to try to knock out an entire, essentially novel's worth of information in 20 minutes. So essentially it is going to be a 60,000 foot view, going to be leaving out essentially all the context. It is going to be cliff notes at best. So again, you're right. And most of the stuff you're going to see online is going to be those cliff note type things. Which is not doing it justice. I mean, it's good to kind of get the stories out there so people who've never heard them before can at least kind of understand what's going on. But again, context is huge.
Yeah, I'd say like, being a college student myself and just having gone through some very early writing classes, it seems very easy or literature classes. Like it seems like the easy answer is like the bad guy never feels like he's doing something bad, right? Like even if everyone else is saying, "Hey, Yawmoth, cut it out," like he's gonna go, "No, I'm trying to make you better." And to basically to everyone that does lore summary videos, like it is about hitting the main story beats, because like I'm holding the Lorwyn book in my hands right now, and it's 300 pages or just over 300 pages. And I mean, that's not like a tome by any means, but like you're not going to cover 300 pages of a book in a 8 to 12 minute video. You're just not. Like you have to 8,000 foot view it. So in your case, when you're going literally line by line and rereading it, you're able to pick up on the subtlety that was in those books, which is, I think, I agree, is a lot better.
It just takes a lot more time, and when people's attention, for like quick magic stories is not very long, or they don't want to listen to, hours upon hours of stuff, at least it's available to them. Like if they want to listen more to the Thran, they could listen to me. If they want a more detailed version, I mean, it is going to take time, obviously. Or if they wanted just the overall story, like real quick, they could go see Wedge, or like maybe Simon, or maybe even like Sam from Ristic Studies. But I don't know. There's some pros and cons to both of them. Like with the con of doing an audiobook, it's just time. It's just so much time invested, whether it's doing the work or actually listening to it. So when you go to like a summarization, it's like, yeah, it's good. It's going to probably do a little, you have to do more research, try to construct a summary to where it flows really well, but you do have to take out some content to make it under that 12 or 15 minutes that you want, which is like what the YouTube algorithm is now asking for, like the perfect video length. So there are some pros and cons to both of those strategies.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I would dare to say that an audiobook is more of a commitment than actually reading it. Again, I can just read so much faster than I listen to audiobooks, but I absolutely adore audiobooks because I like Kody. I'm finishing my second master's right now, full-time job, full-time toddler, part-time wife, and and I mean the only time I can really get like literature that I really want to enjoy is in the car, driving to and from work. So I mean, I'm strict. Like all my literature now comes from audiobooks.
That's exactly, yeah, that's my thing too. Like I'm listening to the Inheritance Cycle, so I'm on like the second book for, I think I'm on Eldest, the Christopher Paolini books.
Mhm.
So I'm on the second one. I'm like halfway through the second one. So, but that's, the first book I listened through the car. I read the first book as a kid, like in middle school, and then now it's like I'm listening to all of them. So now I have like 2 more after that. Hopefully I could get done with them before summer starts, because summer I really want to get into like, really trying to find some motivation to do the Brothers War novels and editing it and then releasing it for football season, while also trying to figure out the stuff for the 3D printing ever since I started a Thingiverse account, and then also maybe getting back to Card Anthology, getting back some content, before football season starts, because before you know it, August is going to come and it's going to be very, very busy.
Yeah, very. I mean, school starting is just a huge time for everybody, and that can really, and also just a new set of Magic coming out, so that's a whole another set of problems. I guess that's a problem only for content creators, right?
Basically.
So now, what made you want to start with the Thran? Like, why is that your jumping off point?
Chronology, plain and simple.
Okay.
Start with the first one. Start with the first one on the timeline that you could really think of.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then so it's like,
so this is the genesis of Magic the Gathering, essentially.
Well, ish, because looking back at the timeline, it's like there's like a I had to relook at the timeline, and when the Thran started, or when the Thran storyline started, and then before that, there's like a 10,000 year gap on Dominaria. So like, if Wizards had to like really go back and figure out stuff, there's a 10,000 year gap between when Bolas defeated like the Leviathan on Dominaria, the first Planeswalker battle, to like the Thran. There's a 10,000 year gap they can play with. It is absolutely insane. And there's even stuff before that, like the Elder Dragon Wars, like 10,000 years before that, and that's basically like in flavor text and all kinds of short stories. Wizards has a lot of ammunition left over, so if they run out of creativity, they need to go back and maybe have like a Thran set. That would be awesome. Like just like the super decked out, like advanced civilization style, like flashback. Oh, that'd be insane.
Yeah,
but yeah, chronology.
Artifact sets have never backfired for Wizards.
Ever. But yeah, so I wanted to do the Thran, and
come on, Time Spiral 2. Let's do this.
It's like me doing the Card Anthology stuff, with the exception of when Nizaho Magic asked me to do, I'm trying to think, Innistrad for like the Halloween set. And this is when I was talking to him more often, where he's like, oh yeah, it's like, I'm doing the Innistrad set, you should do an Innistrad Card Anthology, and we'll do like a collaboration link between both of us. So that was the only time really I think I got off set, like, or off the little chronology, and then came back to it. So with the books, there probably will be like, I know somebody asked me to do the Planeswalker's Guide to Alara, and that's only 160 pages, so that might be something I'll pick up in the summer too. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, boys.
Do a little mini
See,
series.
the only thing that makes me sad, because I'm thinking through Wizards trying to print like an original Thran, like MTG card set, and the only way they would do it nowadays would be to like have it be like one of the Planeswalkers goes back in time. So essentially, it would be like just chuck Jace into the original Thran story and see what he does.
I mean, you could, but you could also, I mean, if they didn't want it, if the War of the Spark goes like what some people think, just kill everyone and just do like a soft reboot. I mean, they could start, if they do a soft reboot, they could start with the rise of the Thran if they wanted to, or if they wanted to, they could start somewhere where they pick up where Bolus defeated the Leviathan and where they did the Talon Gates and stuff. So I mean, that would be something they could look into. I mean, if they wanted to do a soft reboot for any, they could start somewhere over there. Like they have a whole bunch of lore time to like work with. Like that'd be something I would, as a designer, would like, hey, let's kind of like, maybe we could do something with this. I mean, they got Modern Horizons. I don't know where exactly that's going to fall in the timeline.
We got Sarah now.
Yeah, so that kind of leaves a, where's that going to fall exactly? Because Sarah's been places for a while, like as far as age, I think.
Well, it's kind of interesting too, because part of the reason Time Spiral actually happened was because they were essentially trying to depower Planeswalkers so they could start making their actual cards, because the original Planeswalkers were essentially gods and just so overpowered you couldn't really, it didn't fit to have them be in a Magic card. So that would just be very interesting to be able to like try to figure out how to design like an original like Urza card before all the depowering and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, having Urza as a Planeswalker would be insane. Having Yawgmoth as like a legendary creature would be, because if you do Yawgmoth as a legendary creature, then you're like, okay, now this what he looks like as a human is not really a mystery anymore. I mean, we kind of in the description, like you kind of have an idea what he looks like. There's just never been an official human version. There's always been these like demon and evil looking like stuff that represents him. But when you listen to Thran, he was absolutely human. Most of the story, like 80% of the story, he hasn't really evolved into like something else. Like he's just been a dude who just so happened to carry most of the time like 5 swords with him, just because he likes killing people.
Makes sense.
He's a doctor who likes also murdering people when he doesn't like them.
Well, that was just very interesting, though, from original Magic art design, was a lot of these major characters that were fueling the stories and the lore that was going on with these early sets. Not only did they not get their own cards, but they rarely were ever shown in the cards themselves. It'd be like Tanos's coffin, but there was never any art depiction of Thanos until, I guess, more recently. And I think Sarah, the only time she was ever shown in a Magic card was Worship. There's a few others like that. So again, as you said, Yawgmoth. I think I was doing some research on this. The only Magic card that actually has an official picture of Yawgmoth in it is like from the newest Dominaria set, I think.
It was where, I'm trying to think. It was where the guy is like making like a pilgrimage to like Yawgmoth's like ordeal on Phyrexia or something like that. I'm pretty sure it was that. But then there's also like people were getting confused, like Yawgmoth's demon. They thought that was Yawgmoth and it wasn't.
Yeah, so it's what it says here. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is the only card that actually has him on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you look at it that way, it's like his, I guess, god form, and then at the very center of it is like his human form. It's like such a weird thing where, like, just I wonder if people ever even notice that, the center of that is like him. So that's, I think my fiance is home. So
nope.
Yeah.
Nope. 100% never noticed that there was a little person in the middle of that cloud of death.
Yeah. If you look at the art, it's like there's like I guess a glow there, and it looks like a person like in sort of like a incubation or some sort of like some sort of like comatose.
Mm-hmm. Nope, didn't notice that before, but now I do. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So now since you've had the book out on YouTube, make sure to go check out and subscribe to the Card Bazaar on YouTube. Have you gone back to like look at cards from the set? Like, I mean, I know that in the audiobook you pretty much stay with the script of the book, but like, did you out of curiosity like go back to some of those cards from that time period and look at them and just like check out flavor text and stuff?
That like really the first that I did was trying to look at the Dominaria cards and see what kind of connections there were. And then like when you talk about like the Thran, it's mostly like I think Antiquities and like some of the commander sets had like references into them, like the Power Stones and like Thran Dynamo. and all that. And it's really just more the artifact items, like more or less. So because, Antiquities is like where they reference the Brothers' War a lot, and then like Urza Saga, like right after that, where, it takes place thousands of years later. So
Because we talked a little bit about this in our lore one, and obviously you'll have much more experience about this than me. But from what I'd read in my research was that the original Magic sets, all the way through Arabian Nights, there was no storyline behind it, and it was the Antiquities block that picked it up, and we've had a storyline ever since.
Yeah, they'll try to with like Alpha and Beta and Unlimited, they'll sometimes try to make references to those older cards, but really it was Antiquities that like picked up the story. So like that third, or like the the set after Arabian Nights, basically the first, I guess, like true expansion, or like the second true expansion, where it takes place on Dominator. There's a storyline, so that's where it really takes place. And they do reference the Brothers' War, and then the Brothers' War novels came out like a year later.
And then wasn't it the what is it? The Weatherlight, essentially, the crew. That was the first kind of ongoing story, correct? Because a lot of the Thran stuff was kind of like in reference to the story, but that the Weatherlight, which was the end of Yawgmoth's journey, at least up until more recently, was going to be the most continuous, like through the sets. You would tell the story through the cards. I might be just talking to my buddy.
Well, like the artifact cycle books. So I think it was like the Brothers' War through like time streams or bloodlines. Really, they make a lot of references to the antiquity cards, and then when you get to like the Weatherlight saga, when you get to like Mirage, then that's when they start picking up on the Weatherlight crew and start having more references to them, because that would be essentially their origin story, and then it would continue on to multiple blocks.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to think, it was when you get to the Dark, it was basically after, because I think the Dark was roughly after Antiquities, like for some time, and that's with the Dominarian Ice Age, and then you have Ice Age.
If I remember correctly, the Dark was after the Brothers' War. There was just a darkness because everything had been destroyed, and like kind of paganism took over.
Yeah, basically the Silex blast,
yeah,
and that covered the planet in like complete darkness, or like it made it colder, and then you get to Ice Age alliances, and then all that stuff, and then it picks back up with a true, in card and novel storyline. With maybe I'm wrong about that too, because they have like the stuff with like they do have like they have Fallen Empires with like Sarpedia, so like the part that's most south of like where the Brothers' War took place, so which is like thousands of miles south of where that happened. But there's novels in association with like the Ice Age books, and then Weatherlight was where it really went to like multiple blocks, multiple books, multiple blocks, and then went all the way through Apocalypse. So it was like their longest, one of their longer storylines, until you probably hit up the most recent one.
Oath of the Gatewatch or something like that. That's been a ongoing story for, I don't know, 3 years now, 4 years now.
Yeah, the Gatewatch storyline.
That's been since Origins, right? Or the set right after
Origins. Battle for Zendikar,
yeah, BFZ at least. So it's been at least 2 or 3 years of Gatewatch. So as you alluded to earlier, like after this War of the Spark, they could go back. They could go back into old Dominaria, or maybe just someplace entirely new. Who knows? We're coming to the end of that for story purposes, but. Matt, do you have any other questions for Coach?
No, I just kind of want to talk old school Magic cards and lore. That's fun for me.
Well, so while we've got the lore expert on the show, we're going to do a very brief look into some Merfolk lore, picking up from where we left off on our last episode. We'll probably just do like a set or two talking about the Merfolk in those sets, and kind of we do a very 1,000-foot view of the story. So Matt,
I kind of feel self-conscious now.
Yeah. Now that we have the guy who's very detail oriented, and we're like
it's like we got Leonardo da Vinci here. I'm like, I made a finger painting. So yeah, we'll kind of. I think the best way to go about this is because it's been a long time since we've done the lore. So let me go ahead and just kind of recap where we left off. So essentially, it's very similar to where Coach and I were just talking. After the Silex blast, we were starting to get the Ice Age, and the cooling waters was what caused the Homered to come down to Voda, into the Voda Sea, which is where the Merfolk were all living at the time. So it was the Merfolk were in a caste system, but for the most part, the kind of ruling militaristic caste were in the main city. Once the Homered were coming in, they tried fighting back. They couldn't. They were getting their butts whooped. So they were fleeing the scene. So that's where we're going to pick up when I actually do my lore, after I do about another 5,000 hours of research, so I don't embarrass myself now. But from there, it's going to be really cool because we are going to actually be picking up towards the Apocalypse saga, which is the end of the Yawgmoth books. Because that will be, so essentially we're going to be finishing Empress Galenia's story arc. So I think Kody will do that in the next couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, because that would be something cool to pick up on for sure.
Absolutely. So, Coach, real quick before we sign off, is there any cool Merfolk lore that you've gotten from your research that you can think of off the top of your head? Again, I'm totally asking.
That was actually when you were like mentioning that with the Homerids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was like doing the timeline video. I remember, what was it? The Empress Galena basically got thrown in time forward.
Yeah.
And then had to basically retake over New Vodalia and then establish New Vodalia because the Homerids have like screwed it up so much.
Yeah.
So that's the little bit I remember from like last year. And then like I think with like Fallen Empires, there's like a couple Merfolk or sea creature like storylines that happened with that, along with like what was happening with the other kingdom, like Acadia, and like the fungus creatures that were becoming sapient or sentient, I should say. So there was the thing with the Merfolks going on too, because there was like 5 or 6 kingdoms on Sarpedia.
Yeah, one for each color. Saying there was like kind of the good and the bad. For as much of a garbage set as Fallen Empires is, for the most part, the storyline for it is actually really, really good. So I again, we're gonna only focus on the Merfolk side here because there's just a lot going on. But if you guys are bored, you guys should go check it out. It's really fun to read up on.
Yeah, and the deck that Russell brought on when he did his mono blue Little Mermaid themed EDH deck that we talked about. I'm trying to think of his name. I can't, for some reason I can't think of that commander.
Commander Laquatus.
Yeah. So Commander Laquatus was
Ambassador.
Ambassador Laquatus. Thank you. So when Russell brought on that commander deck with Ambassador Laquatus, one of the big story beats of that story, we're piecing together the story between the three of us. It's like we all went to a bar and we all remembered different versions of a fight. Ambassador Laquatus actually was kind of like a turncoat figure in the story, and he was actually helping out the Homerids and getting information from,
what a jerk.
Yeah, right? And so like part of Empress Galena.
Kody, can we have the South Park crab people song come up every time we hear we say Homerid?
Yeah, I'll work on that. I think
I'd really appreciate that.
I think I can look for that. But yeah, so it's one of those things that there are cool Merfolk stories. Unfortunately for us, for a lot of the old Merfolk, basically until we hit the Lorwyn cycle, which also really isn't that much about Merfolk. There just happens to be a lot of them around. They're really
kind of just side notes.
Yeah, the thing is like most of the story that we're getting is from reading the books and then figuring out flavor text, like what the context of the flavor text from those sets are from those books, and kind of piecing them together to form, you know, a puzzle. And that's pretty much what we got.
Yeah,
Merfolk.
I mean, because Merfolk just really aren't the main characters of any of the story arcs. I mean, as we see now, Kiora, Kody even forgot she existed in War of the Spark. So
I didn't forget she existed. She just doesn't do anything for Merfolk. Like she's a Merfolk that cares about big booty sea monsters. Like she doesn't care about Merfolk.
but yeah, you're absolutely right. So again, some of the research for doing that Merfolk lore is just kind of interesting. It's just like reading, and this has nothing to do with anything I care about at this moment. That's interesting, but still can't use that. A Merfolk is referenced, and it's gone. Okay. But and also there was, I think the magazine was called The Duelist back in the day, the monthly Wizards magazine, and there was short stories that were published in there. So there'll be a few in that you can get from that publication. The problem is that it's kind of hard to find some of that stuff. So you got to dig a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we thank you for coming on the show to talk about your audiobook. Make sure everyone to go find it on Coach's YouTube channel, the Card Bazaar. When are we going to get together and do audiobook versions of the Lorwyn cycle?
That's a fantastic question. Which I do not have the answer to.
No, actually, I have the answer for you, since you're doing everything chronologically. What, 2025? 2030, somewhere in that period?
Yeah, I'll probably be dead by then.
So it's a George R.R. Martin thing. You'll never finish.
I'll never finish.
So we will hold a seance, and we will bring you back in from the afterlife, and we will record the Lorwyn. It's 4 books. It's 4 whole books in the.
We'll bring some ghost cognac and a ghost.
No, I could already see the pentagram. It's gonna have the red robe and the wine.
Yeah.
We'll bring your ghost
and the
cat.
fire, and you can't forget the fire.
Yeah.
The fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
I can already see it now.
Yeah, it'll be beautiful.
That's how I'm gonna go.
Where can we find you on the internet again, Coach? For those of you who made it all the way through this,
you can't cross over because you have unfinished business. Your unfinished business is completing the entire Magic the Gathering book series.
That sounds like some Ravnica crap right there. Oh my gosh, it's
very
like
Orzhov.
you can't be going to the afterlife. You're gonna stay as a ghost in purgatory until you finish your duties. That sounds like some Ravnica crap right there.
100%.
So where can we find you, Coach?
People can find me on the Card Bazaar YouTube channel. Please don't get confused with the Card Bazaar store in Australia, which people have gotten confused before, and I've had to go on Twitter and like correct that. Also, while we're on Twitter, mine is Coach at the Card Bazaar CC. All right, it doesn't mean collectible cards. CC actually means just Corpus Christi. So there's the location on there too. So as far as the city goes, so don't get them confused with the Australian card store, the Card Bazaar. Just don't do it. Okay, so just fair warning, because people have done that before. So you can find me in those 2 places. If you also into 3D printing, however, which most of you are probably not, because we're into like huge magic. But anyway, this thing over here, that's a 3D printer. I've been printing a lot of stuff. I've also been making stuff too. You could go to thingiverse.com/the Card Bazaar and find my profile and look at my designs that I've been making or putting together at least. So you can find me there too, which since I've started, my YouTube revenue has gone up like 80%, weird enough. So I think there is a direct correlation with that, sir.
Yeah, actually, what's funny was so there's a French Magic the well, I guess board game store, but they're magicbazaar.fr, and that's where I get my French Merfolk foils. And so when I heard that, I was like, did I hear that right? Is that really? It's Card Bazaar. Okay, so it's different. Okay, it's different. So
just making sure.
Yeah, just making sure in my head that I'm not conflating the two.
We get a lot of middle-aged white men looking for bass fishing tips, so it happens.
Yeah, it really does. You can find me on Twitter as @NotCodySmith, and where can we find you, Matt?
Matthew Caudill 8. Just hanging out, trolling Cody.
That's true. That's pretty much all you do. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is at FishCastMTG. If you have a longer form question, feel free to email us at fishcastmtg@gmail.com. Our cover art was made by Tessa and Hunter Pruitt, and our logo and stream art was done by Ishton on Twitter, with our intro animation done by Jake Boss MTG. If you like what we're doing here, please rate and subscribe in the Apple or Google Play podcast app stores, as well as find us on Patreon at patreon.com/fishcastmtg. This is where you're getting all your mess ups. Make sure to also check us out every Saturday night, 9 p.m. for our weekly Merfolk stream. I've got a really cool idea that I'm going to be discussing with our Discord for a Merfolk Modern deck. And so it'll be cool. And come hang out in our Discord.
Yeah, Cody's chucking some random stuff in there. I'm like really digging it.
Yeah, we played
Winter Orb.
Yeah,
come on now.
We played Legacy Merfolk with Winter Orb and a full playset of Wastelands, and it didn't do as good because of the London Mulligan. I was not. We all none of us remembered that was a thing, and it turns out combo decks are really good with the London Mulligan. So we'll see how that ends up going. Thank you everybody very much for your time, and thank you again, Coach, for coming on the show. We definitely appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
And we'll see
everybody. Good night, everyone.
We'll see everybody next week. I'm sorry, Matt.
Oh, you killed it.
Killed it.
Jerk. You jerk.
I'm a fat moron type jerk.
Have a good night, everyone.
Crab people, crab people, crab.